so today I'm here to do my wrap up for the month of April and to also do my wrap up for the O.W.L.S readathon, and oh my god, it was such a good readathon and I totally succeeded at everything I wanted to do. But this video is probably going to be long because there's a lot of different things to wrap up and to talk about. And guys, I actually wore the right jumper today. This is a new jumper I got. Look, we have Harry, Hermione, Harry Potter, Hedwig, the glasses, Dobby, Ron, and Hagrid. Like, I love it so much. Like, I'm not wearing a Game of Thrones jumper today, so I think I did good. But anyway, for today's wrap up, I read a total of 10 books, and I'm so shocked. Like, I actually did so well. But one of these books wasn't a part of my O.W.L.S TBR, so I completed 9 O.W.L.S exams, so I got it completely outstanding, and I'm like, yes! And I also listened to 2 audiobooks this month within the 10, so let's get into this wrap up. So the first book I read this month was Wither by Lauren DeStefano. This is a book I wanted to finish in March, but it didn't happen, and because I was currently reading a few books, I really wanted to get this one done, so I finished it in like the first 2 days of the month, and oh my god, I had so much fun with this book. I really was intrigued by the concept of girls dying when they turn 20 and of guys dying when they turn 25, and it's like part of this like disease going around, and I really enjoyed it, and it felt like The Handmaid's Tale, but like a YA version, but there was still a lot of stuff happening in this book that was a bit like, oh, that just went down, and I just really did enjoy it. But I have heard that the second 2 books aren't as good and it kind of goes downhill, so I probably won't buy the sequels for a while just because it's like TBR money I'm gonna have to save just to buy these, but I'm really glad I read the first one. The next book I read was What I Like About Me by Jenna Gulaman, and this was for the exam Muggle Studies because it was for a contemporary, but I really enjoyed this, and I do find that if I had read Dumpling by Julie Murphy, I would find these 2 books very similar. It's just the Aussie version of the beauty fashion show, but I did think it was really fun, and it just felt so like familiar for me, and it was Aussie summer, which only goes for 6 weeks, and Maisie was a great character, and I just loved her humor, and it was just really fun. Okay, next I listened to The Vanishing Stair by Maureen Johnson, and oh my god, this ended in a way that I need the next book like right now. But these mystery books are so good. They are actually so good, and you get so invested because you want to know what happened 80 years ago, but then there's also other shit going on in the present that like they need to focus on as well. But you definitely got a lot more details about the case from 1940, I think that's the year, and I was so excited for Stevie to get more information and just to know some things that no one else has ever known, and it just got so intense though, and I'm just so excited, and I need book 3. So this wasn't on my TBR for the O.W.L, but I used it for the Transfiguration exam because the prompt was sprayed edges or a red cover, and this has a red cover, so this is one that I changed it up a bit because I actually changed up my TBR 3 times because I got to the point where I didn't really want to read any of the books on my TBR and I wanted to keep reading, so I had to try to change it up and pick different books so that I kept reading, which worked out for me. So next I read A Curse So Dark and Lonely by Bridget Cremier, and I loved this. I loved this so much. I need book 2 right now, and anything Beauty and the Beast is going to be my absolute favorite. I enjoyed Harper, Ren, and Grace so much, and I loved the way the world was written and how it was a modern retelling because Harper is actually from our world and she gets transported into their mythical world, and like she's got her brother and there's all this battle happening and there's so many different elements, and it was just so good. So this was for the challenge of Ancient Runes, and the prompt was a retelling, so that's another exam. Next I read Love and Luck by Jenna Evans Welsh, and this only took me 2 days to read, but this book was actually quite small. Like, it was only 299 pages, but I love her writing and her road trip travel-y kind of stories, and they're always so good. Like, I really enjoyed Addie in this book, and Rowan was so great, and I loved the relationship that she had with her brother because she used to be so close to him, and then something happens that we don't know about and we find out later in the book, and it tears their relationship apart, and now they've got to kind of cope with each other because they're stuck with each other in Ireland and they're going on this little road trip, and it was so cool, and now I really want to go to Ireland. Like, after I read Love and Gelato, I really wanted to go to Italy, but now Ireland is where I was at. But I had so much fun with this. So reading this book ticked off the exam of Herbology, which was to read a book with a plant on the cover, and like the clove is stretching it a bit, but it works. So I finally read The Last Beginning by Lauren James, and I'm so glad. And this is actually my first series read for the year, and it's only completing a duology. I don't actually know if I've been going well with my reading challenges or not, but this challenge I definitely haven't been going well with. But this was so much fun because the first book was like a reincarnation story, and then this one was a time travel story, and you're going back to where all these characters have been and figuring out things, and it was so awesome. It actually gave me such a better understanding of the story, and it just brought back the memories of how much I loved the first book, and I just enjoyed this so much. So this was for the challenge of potions, and this was to read a sequel, so I did that. Next I read Rule by Ellen Goodlett, and this was actually so much fun, and this is another one that I changed it up because I actually used this book for Defense Against the Dark Arts, and it was a book starting with R, and I just couldn't be damned to pick up Raylia. I just could not bring myself to do it, and I knew if I picked up Raylia I was gonna read nothing else this month, so I decided to pick up a different book, and this starts with R. And what I loved about this book is it's a very generic fantasy setting, but what's great about it is three main characters are just all living their lives, and then they all find out they're an illegitimate child of the king, and they all get brought in. He's dying and his son just got killed, and one of them needs to be the next ruler, and what starts happening is they all start getting blackmailed because they all have a secret that is something very bad against the throne that they're trying to get, and they all have something that they did that was really bad, and to know all these secrets and to know what's at stake, and then to watch these characters go through this book, it was so awesome, and I just enjoyed it so much. Like, sometimes it got a bit long and the same stuff kind of felt like was happening, and some of the relationships I wasn't really enjoying, but overall the intrigue of this book, and definitely I still need to know what's going to happen because I need book 2, because I feel like this book ended in a way that you kind of know but then you don't really know, and I need more, and I just really enjoyed it. So guys, I finally read Percy Jackson and the Lightning Thief by Rick Riordan, and I can't believe it, and this was so good. Like, I enjoyed this so much. My only issue is that I kept picturing what happened in the movie, and when it didn't happen in the book I'm like, but what about this, and when this happens it links up to this so that this can happen. But obviously the book is the right canon story, but it's so different. Like, the book to the movie is so different. So I actually do enjoy the movies though, but that always happens when you haven't read the books first. I love Percy so much, and Grover and Annabeth, and just all these characters are so good, and I'm excited to keep going on with this series and to know more, and then get to the Heroes of Olympus. I think that's the next series. So this book completed the History of Magic challenge, which was to read a book that was 10 years old, so this definitely is. And then the other audiobook I listened to was Forever Interrupted by Taylor Jenkins Reid, and I love Taylor Jenkins Reid's writing so much. I gave this one a 4 stars though, just because the voice of the audiobook author was kind of annoying, and the conclusion of the book let me down because I was expecting something much bigger to happen, because that's kind of like what always happens, is you don't have all the information and then something gets revealed at the end, and it's always like, oh, but that didn't happen as much as I expected it to, so I got 4 stars. But I really love this story. This story is about Elsie, and she's had this whirlwind relationship with a guy named Ben, and they get married, and then he gets hit by a truck and dies. And what's really sad is Ben's mother comes into the picture, and she's never even heard of Elsie, so Elsie has to have this big battle trying to make sure that everyone knows who she is to Ben, but to also like deal with the funeral and also deal with the fact that the love of her life has just died, and it's so sad. But what this book does to really hit a punch is you actually get to see the relationship that Ben and Elsie have as it develops. So you get to see the meeting, and you get to see their relationship throughout the 6 months that they knew each other, and it was really good, because you could be so happy and laughing at one point and then just feel like you're gonna die in the next point. But this book was just so good, and I enjoyed it so much, and I just want to get all of her books read. So I've read half of her books, I'm pretty sure. Like, there's one that I definitely want to buy of hers to read, and then there's one more on audiobook, and then there's Daisy Joan and the Six, which I don't know if I'm going to read. Like, I want to read it, but I don't know how I feel about the whole band idea there, but I mean, I'll give it a go. So this book was for the challenge of charms, and that was to read an adult work, which it is. So with this last book, it's one that I read that was really kind of a cheat and a rip-off for this readathon, but I just wanted to get to that 9 challenge mark. And so at the end of the month, I was desperately trying to read These Broken Stars, and like, I got to the last day and I still had 300 pages to go, and it just wasn't going to happen. And the challenge I was trying to do was Arithmancy, which was to read a book by more than one author. And so I started to look through my shelf for anything that I could read that was going to be a really easy read, and I found one and I read it, but it's just so random because I read A Midsummer Night #NoFilter by William Shakespeare and Brett Wright. So there is 2 authors here, because what this is, it's the play, but it's told in like text messages and emojis, which is actually a pretty cool concept. But it's just because like I picked the easiest thing I could possibly think of just to get to 9 challenges, and this is 86 pages, but I read it in like half an hour, 20 minutes. Like, it didn't take a very long time. And I mean, it has been on my TBR for years. I just never picked it up. And I was started to read it without even knowing what the bloody play was about. So I had to go Google what the play was to actually understand what was happening. But I'm glad that this is finally off my TBR, and I do feel like I've just like made a big cheat with this whole thing. But I am so glad that I got to 9 challenges for reading this. So here is all the physical books that I read this month. And I just feel like I don't have stacks this big anymore. Like, I'm just so proud of myself of getting so many books read. And I really tried to read as much as I could. And I had quite a lot of days off throughout the month as well, with Easter and me going on holiday a few times. So I definitely am just so proud that I got so much done. So in my careers wizarding book, I have been marking off every single challenge that I get done. So I will tell you guys what careers I managed to qualify for. So I managed to read all the books so that I could be an aura, which I'm so excited about. I qualified to be a broom maker. I qualified to be a curse breaker. I qualified to be a journalist or a writer. So the 2 careers that I really wanted, I managed to qualify for. So I'm so glad. And I qualified for librarian, mind medic. Actually, mind medic is the one that I'm most happy about, because that was 8 challenges and I did them all. I didn't even know I was planning to try and get the one, but it worked out. I'm qualified to be a ministry worker. So I've qualified for 7 careers. So it's definitely narrowed down the pool of careers here. But I definitely think the newts are going to be harder, because you have to be getting like actual, like, you know, O in ancient runes or E in defense against the dark arts. Like, there is going to be multiple more challenges that you actually need to read to get these careers. So definitely August is where this is going to get really difficult. And the other amazing thing this month, guys, is I managed to stick to my book buying ban. So I read 10 books and I didn't buy a single book this month. So I've managed to get 8 books off my TBR, made it a little bit smaller, and I think my level of reading has gotten a lot higher now. So hopefully in the next couple of months I'm going to end up reading more than I would have. I conquered the hours, I conquered not buying any books this month, and I'm just so proud of myself. And just to talk about the challenges for my TBR money challenge, just to add to the end of this TBR here, guys, so you know how much money I saved. So by reading Wither, I completed the challenge of reading a dystopian, which added $5. Reading What I Liked About Me worked for the challenge of a book that takes place during summer, so another $5. The Vanishing Stair was a book with red on the cover, so I only added $2 into my jar for that one. A Curse So Dark and Lonely was a retelling, so that was $5. Love and Luck was a book with love in the title, which was another $5, which I'm so glad about, because I don't actually own that many books with the word love in it, so that worked. The Last Beginning was a book about time travel, so that was $5. Rule was a book with the one-word title, so another $5. The Lightning Thief was a book inspired by mythology, legend, or folklore, so another $5. Forever Interrupted was a book about grief or death, so that was $5. And A Midsummer's Night #NoFilter was a book with green on the cover, so I added another $2. So by the end of the month, I managed to get $62 into my TBR fund, and I'm so glad and excited, because another rule that we've added into our TBR money challenge is if you've already read a book but you don't own a copy of it, it's not adding a book to your TBR, because it's going to go straight into the red section of your shelves. Because some of the audiobooks I've listened to, I just want a physical copy, because I definitely feel like I'd want to reread it as a physical copy, but also just to have a copy because I loved it so much. So in March, when I spent some of my birthday money on books, I actually bought 3 books that I'd already read. So because of that $75 that I spent on books, I'm allowed to swing into my TBR jar fund here to buy a couple of books. And so having 75 plus 60, I'm really excited. I've actually got some books in my cart on Book Depository, and I've just got to save another $5 to buy that with all this money that I've accumulated. So I'm going to be adding a couple more books to my TBR, and I will have a book haul coming in the next couple of weeks or the next month when I actually end up buying these books and do this. And I'm also going to be buying a couple of books that I just listened to on audio, because I just really enjoyed them. It's really hard for me to read a book and then not have it with me, but it's also really fun just to listen to the audiobooks, because I'm getting more reading done. Honestly, the only one that I don't think I'm gonna buy is American Street, just because I didn't enjoy that as much. Like, I did give it 4 stars and it was okay. It was just, the voice of that audiobook was very weird, and just the story just cut me so deep. But anyway, guys, thanks for watching this really long wrap up. I hope you'd enjoy, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye!